What's good, Washington Commander fans? All right, this is a quick video to recap yesterday's presser with Adam Peters. You know that Adam Peters has been tagged as the new GM for the Washington Commanders, and he has signed a 5-year contract with the Commanders, which is um, it's a good period of length of time because I think in 5 years we could get some things done within the first 2.5 to 3 years. Um, with Josh Harris started out the press conference with Adam Peters. They both talked. They both dived in very specifics. You had the top-notch reporters out there, JP Finley, John Klein, and Nikki Giovanni, um, asking Pacific questions, trying to get very specific details, which Josh Harrison didn't give out the details that is needed. So that's a good thing. Um, with that being said, my personal feel, because shout out to Protect, who was on his show last night with Corey from Warpath and Tim from Tim Sports Talk. We was just going over some detail, talking about certain things that we kind of like or what we want to see and who our favorites and stuff. Since this GM candidacy was open, it was more of a um, who we wanted. Adam Peters, Adam Peters was the top-notch guy. He was the guy that Washington wanted. He was the guy that Josh Harris sought out, but Josh Harris needed to bring other players in the game, such as Rick Spielman from the used to be with the Minnesota Vikings. Then Bob Myers from the Golden State Warriors. And you had to bring in winners. You had to bring in guys that knew specifically what to do, how to understand the level of business and success. Washington franchise hasn't had that level of success since back in the early 90s. You know what I'm saying? And then when Dan Snyder took over in the late 90s and this team just went awry for over 20 something years. Now, when he had hired Bruce Allen, we thought, Bruce Allen was reputable. We thought he had the reputation to bring in this franchise, but come to find out, Bruce Allen was he was Daniel Snyder's clone. He didn't do anything. He didn't do the great deals. So we signed so many high-priced free agencies or free agents that came in, some past their prime, and they didn't perform. They was just there to get a check. And then we lost out some great people that should have stayed with the franchise because we didn't re-sign them. It didn't take care of the guys that, was out there giving their all blood, sweat, and tears. Now that Daniel Snyder has sold the team and moved on, I feel like a lot of y'all Commander fans are still skeptical because you've been burned so many times, you know, especially for the last 4 years, having Daniel Snyder part of them 4 years with hiring Ron Rivera. And Ron Rivera, like, many of us say he's a good guy, but he's been checked out the game for a long, long time. Ron Rivera does not have the feel to hold people accountable, not even players. He's very passive aggressive. He would make decisions, but he will pass the buck to allow he allowed his coaches to coach. He never interfered if something was wrong. He never got on them. Now the only person that he kind of like, I felt like he really went at a little bit was Scott Turner. But Scott Turner was horrendous. You know what I'm saying? Now Scott Turner he probably got the best out of the quarterbacks that we had, but you got to understand we did have a decent offensive line until last year and this year. But Ron would never make them kind of changes to improve the offensive line. So and then what happened after last season, we missed the playoffs because certain things. Ron said, "Oh well, I didn't know we was able to make the playoffs," which I wanted him fired from that point. But the state of the franchise, that could not happen. Now we move to this
And
year.
so
Ron
49er
Rivera continued to
organization,
do the
the
same
players
asinine
still
things.
recruit the men
Same things.
because
You
players still
know, we
recruit.
traded away
It's
Montez, we
really a
traded
great
away
organization, but
um,
especially the people I worked with,
Chase Young,
the
which
massive
all rights to
guys, the
purpose. You know,
personnel
some people
department,
didn't
our
like the
team
Chase
development, our
trading, but
coaches,
I mean, you're
lifelong friendships,
former number
just
one.
incredible
I mean, former
relationships,
number two
and
pick.
working
You haven't
together
really
step by
did
step
anything.
with all of them.
But
I
anyway,
wouldn't be out
so
here
fast
without
forward to
them.
now.
Um,
Josh Harris
Last but
and
not least, the 49er faithful, a great fan base,
Adam Peterson.
just like this one,
And I think Adam
passionate
Peters, with his
and loyal
background, Adam
and
Peters
get
pretty
together
much
to compete.
solidified who he
All
is as a
that
person,
support and mentoring is
what
done
he's
here today.
capable of. See,
And
the thing
as
about
far
it
as it
is to
goes to
build a
be
franchise,
the
you got
general
to add
manager of the
winners
Washington
in there
football
that
team,
know
I
how to
can't
get
tell
the
you enough
job
about
done.
Saturday night
Not
football.
just
It
somebody
was
there that's just going to talk all
absolutely incredible.
good and,
Pinching
you
myself
know, make all
when I
these
saw Saturday
promises,
get
and then
started.
you don't see
I
the
got to tell you, you got
execution
to
on the
honestly
field with the
work
players.
tirelessly to build
When
this
you see
franchise.
players
It's one of the
tune
most fun
out, being
franchises in the
disengaged,
NFL.
and not wanting to
The,
play
the National
anymore
Football
for
League
your
is an
coach
incredible
or
area.
for the
The
franchise,
DMV,
that
the
is a
nation's
problem.
capital. I
You
could
look at
not be more
everywhere
thrilled to
that
be
Adam
here. A
Peters
family
went.
could not be more
Now,
thrilled to be
I
here.
didn't know he was with the
And
Patriots
I
because
know
I
how much
followed the
this
Patriots
franchise
ever
means to
since
our
2020
fans.
when, you know, after Tom
Extremely,
Brady took
extremely
over from
motivated to live
thing.
every
And I've
moment
been
of this
riding
journey.
because I
We're
do
going to
like
do it
Tom
the
Brady.
right way. We're going to build a
But
great roster,
following that
pure vision.
franchise for over
And you
20
guys are going
something
to see
years
that
and
on the
see the
field.
level
The
of success
energy,
that
the
they had,
passion, the toughness, the
then Adam Peters
physicality,
moved
all
from
those things
there
are
and go to
present in the
Denver,
DMV area.
where they
It's very
won a
lucky
ring
that
with Peyton
this
Manning
franchise
over
has been
there,
built
and
so
you
long.
saw how quick that
The foundation and
transition
the resources
was able
that this
to
ownership has granted,
click.
ownership
Then
group
you
has
move
given
on to
us
the 49ers,
is
where you
all we
see the
need. It's my
49ers
job to execute
continue
that
to
vision.
have
So
success throughout the
we're going to
years.
surround
Even
ourselves
from
by
Jim
professionals and the
Harbaugh
very best
to
people
Kyle
who
Shanahan, the
rely on that loyalty
49ers always kept a
for
level of
performance on the
success
field.
there.
So
They
that process
always
starts right now.
been
Critical
that
steps are
high
going to happen
standard of a
very
team.
soon.
You
This is something
cannot
we dove in
dispute it.
headfirst
Now,
into
some
last
people
Friday.
will,
So
you know, say,
again,
hey, you
thank
know
you,
what?
Josh,
Adam
for
Peters did,
his
made
partner
this trade
for this
for Trey
opportunity to
Lance, should have got
collaborate
Matt
with this
Jones. But guess
team
what?
in this
They
region.
made up for it with
Nation's
Brock
capital,
Purdy.
and
That's
has
the thing
all
that
the
you have to
incredible
understand.
support
Every
and
franchise is
first
going to
class
probably make
representation.
one or two mistakes,
I'm all
but
in.
they're not
So
going to make the
we are
mistakes
all
that's
in. I
going to be
can't wait to get
detrimental to the
started,
team.
doing
You know what I'm
everything
saying?
we
Because look at the
can to
49ers
build this
now.
drive for
Yeah, they
years to
had
come.
Trey Lance there, but they still had
And with
Jimmy G
that,
there
I'll be
also.
happy to answer
You know what I'm
questions.
saying? So they still was winning. They still was in the playoffs. So that you might have a bad draft, but you still maintain the level of winning and consistency. Now, if you had a bad draft and you kind of like fell off, then you would have to question Adam Peters
Thank you. Nice to meet you. I think
in
I
that
got to
sense
see
and
you a
say,
little
well,
bit
you know
today.
what? Hey, um,
Well, everything is the answer to that
hey,
question.
this
Everything
is what,
is
you
exactly what
know,
a person in my
he didn't do
seat
right.
would want.
You know, this team
Great
never
ownership
got back
group,
to the
a
level
great
of
fan
success where they
base,
was.
the
But you
ability to
can't
start again
really
with a new coach. All of those
argue or
things
question that
were so
because
appealing
the
to me.
49ers are
Really,
still the 49ers.
going through this
You know what I'm
process,
saying?
it was very clear to
So,
me at a very early
with
time
that being
that I
said,
trust Josh. This is
I
the right
think
one for
Adam
me.
Peters, with all his
John
experience and
Conley,
all the places
ESPN.
that he's been and all the mistakes that
Josh,
he
first,
probably had made,
you talk about
I
Adam
don't
Peters.
think Adam Peters will
You
make
see
that
in that
mistake of
that
drafting
jumped
a,
out to you
you know,
from
when it
both
comes
of
down
them, you and
draft
Adam.
day,
If you could
or
talk a little bit
his new
about
head coach that he plugs
the most
in,
important things you're looking for to
and they
set
gonna
up
make that mistake
an organizational
like
structure.
the previous
Exactly
regime with
where
Ron and Marty
he's won
Mayhew and
everywhere
all of
he's
them,
been.
Monty
Early in the
Herney and all of
process,
them
and
doing draft day,
obviously
picking the
better
wrong
than
guys,
San
reaching for the
Francisco.
wrong
I think
guys, or this
he's learned
guy's
from a lot of
it,
good leaders.
you know,
He's
because
about
like I
excellence.
said
He's about
on
attracting the best people
before, is
and
that
holding them
we
accountable.
missed out on
He's
some
about
great
building edges.
guys that we should have had. Yeah,
He's
we reached on
inclusive.
Jahan. We
He's
shouldn't
going to
have
people
traded
from a
back. We
lot of
should have got
different
Kyle
backgrounds,
Hamilton, or
a
we
lot
could
of
have got
different
Traylon Burks, or we
perspectives,
could have got George
and
Pickens. We
so
could have got Chris Olave. We could have got any
in
one of these
terms
other
of how
receivers
we do it, both of us will work
in
super
that sense.
hard.
We could have got a
Both of
defensive
us
back.
want to do
We
things
could
from
have
the
got a
ground up,
receiver
not
later
just
on
from
in the
the
game.
side. Both
There
of
was
us
so
want to
many
win.
things that we could have
What
do
we
in the
wanted from
last
this
two
perspective
drafts,
to
but
build
we
was a
didn't.
sustainable
You know, we
winning
reached. I think we
franchise.
reached on Emmanuel
And
Forrest
so
when we had other guys that we could have picked. You
he was
know,
an
we
ideal
could have still
candidate
built an
for
offensive
me.
line. We could have got an offensive
And
lineman,
hearing that
and
from
we could have got
Josh
a. We could have got a cornerback later in the round. There was a lot of things that we should have done in these last two drafts that we didn't, and it kind of hindered us into where we at today. So that's why I said that I feel Adam Peters, even though Ian Cunningham was one of the other top notch guys, and then we talked about the GM over there at Kansas City and all of that stuff. But all eyes was on Adam Peters. He was the guy. He was the most sought after person. And it just goes to show that Josh Harris is really about winning. And if people don't understand that, look at Josh Harris teams. Now, yeah, the Philadelphia 76ers hasn't won a title, but look at the level of success that they have. They got a cornerstone guy in Joel Embiid. They got a guy in Tyrese Maxey. They traded James Harden away, and these guys are still winning games. Matter of fact, they beat the defending the defending NBA champs last night, Denver Nuggets, and Joel Embiid had 41 points. I do believe the Sixers might be in the NBA Finals this year. I really do believe that. Now, with everything else, I think Aaron Peters' experience. Now he's not a great talker. I think John Klein referred to this as that he's not feel like he's not a really good speaker, or I might interpret it could be somebody else. But I think he talked very well. I think he was very meticulous of what he wanted to say and how he said it, and now give out too much information to the media. So, and you got to understand, it's a press conference. He has a lot of leg work to do. He has a lot of work to do. You know what I'm saying? And him and Josh Harris has the same notion, that same idea of everything. Now, I did put a clip of the press conference in this video, not along with this video here, but it's a separate video you will see once you plug in and look at it. You'll be able to look at some of the things and cover some of the things that I'm talking about right now. Now, I'm gonna go over some details what Josh Harris and all of them had to say during that time. Now, during that time, Adam Peters was asked about the timeline for rebuild. And he said this particularly. He said, you cannot put timetables on it but what I could tell you that you're going to see a great competitors and physical presence on the field. Now, you got to read between the lines of everything that he said. He said, great competitors and physical presence on the field. What do the 49ers have? Great competitors, physicality on the field. That's something that the Washington Commanders have not had in a long time, is physicality, presence on the field. When teams play us, they're going to think twice about playing us. They're going to think twice and say, you know what, hey, this Commanders team ain't the same team that years ago. This team is out here ready to compete. They're ready to take your head off. Look how the Detroit Lions play. Look how the Houston Texans play. Look how the Green Bay Packers play. Look how the Tampa Bay Buccaneers play. Even look at the Chicago Bears. Take notes from that, man. You see how these teams playing physical. Yeah, they're going to be injuries, but you can't stop all injuries in the game. But you got to have a level of physicality to the game. You can't be scared to tackle. You can't be scared to hit. You know what I'm saying? You can't scared to be up in somebody's chest. We have to be dominant on the field. We have to have a level of presence on the field. And he also continues to say, whether the results come right away, you'll be proud of what you see on the field. And it's going to take time. That's why I feel it's going to take time. You know what I'm saying? But if you get the right ingredients, it's like baking a cake. If you don't put the right ingredients in, that cake is not going to taste as good as you imagine it tastes. It's like cooking. It's not when you put a meal together on the stove and you don't put all the seasoning that you need in there, and you miss one or two seasons, then guess what? The food is not going to taste exceptional to the things to what you want it to be. So that's anything in life. That's even going to a 9-to-5 job. If you don't put the level of excellence for yourself and hold yourself a certain standard, it's not going to, your ability for success is not going to be as great as you think it is. And this is the kind of guys that we have in place right now, because their level of excellence is going to carry over to what kind of players they select and what kind of head coach they select and what kind of staff they put together. It's going to translate and bring the best out of these guys on the field. So he also said they asked what kind of head coach or offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator that you're looking for? And he simply put it just like this. He said, we're looking for the best leader for this team. It's not going to be in a box, offense and defense. So it doesn't matter if they interview a defensive coordinator or offensive coordinator. You know what I'm saying? It's about leadership. How well this person could lead this team. How well this person has done in his past career or current career that make him the best candidate to lead this franchise into another 2 to 3 years of being trying to be successful. That's something that Ron Rivera has not shown. That he, to me, I feel Ron Rivera was a rush placement coach because Daniel Snyder wasn't patient enough. Daniel Snyder didn't do the thorough things that made it necessary for him to be able to find the right person for the job. He just found whoever he was because this guy had some level of success. But if you look at Ron Rivera's history, it hasn't really been so successful. If he didn't have Cam Newton, you would think Ron Rivera would have lasted as long as he did with the Carolina Panthers? No. And you think he would have been able to get a job with us? Well, probably so because it was Dan Snyder. But so that's how I view it. You don't have to have a lot of elite talent on your team. You just have to have a lot of competitors on your team. And I look at a lot of teams that don't have elite talent, but they have guys that compete at a high level and then translate to winning success. So I dismiss all that notion of, oh, we need elite guys. You get elite guys, you got to spend a lot of money. You know what I'm saying? If you get the right guys and you winning consistently, that's better than having an elite guy on your team. To me, I think we got some elite guys on our team. You know what I'm saying? But I do think we got some guys that could step up a little bit more. Everybody year on this team has taken a step back because of the coaching. That's something that we talked on Protect channel last night. Coaching, and I'm very big on coaching, and I said it even last year to this year. It's sometimes it could be it's players sometimes, and sometimes it's be coaching. If you look at what the Dallas Cowboys just went through and the Philadelphia Eagles, it's not so much the players, it's coaching. If you take if your top-notch offensive coordinator leaves and your offense doesn't operate the same the following year, it's coaching. You have to find a guy that has that same similarity to that coach that could still give your team a successful ingredient to continue to win games year in and year out. That's something the Washington Commanders hasn't had. And we all watch this year in and year out. And we jumped on so many good guys. We thought this person was it. We thought that person was it. We gave them kudos and stuff. But kind of find out they was frauds. Adam Peters and Josh Harris ain't frauds. They all about their business. And as soon as we see it translate on the field, we can sit back and say, damn, you know what? Finally, I can say we have a winning team, especially making the playoffs. We have not been constantly in the playoffs so long. I can't remember. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I like about it. Now, Adam Peters just also addressed the roster. He said, they asked about roster building strategy. He said, ultimately, we're going to build through the draft and supplement in free agency. And this is where it gets really, really important to understand that you have the number 2 pick. You can do whatever you want with that number 2 pick. Hell, you could stick with Sam Howell for another year. Hell, you could draft a quarterback. You could draft a quarterback in the late round. It doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? It's all about building through the draft. One of the key things that we need, offensive line, linebackers, and cornerbacks. We have to fill them 3 needs and a tight end. So that's 4. We have to have a dominant tight end. We fill them pieces in because the thing about it is, say that the 49ers, say that I read this on Twitter yesterday, say that the Patriots did want a Drake May. Say, for instance, they wanted to move to 2. We trade back to number 3. You know what I'm saying? And get all these other pieces. Now, check
than
this out.
John Lynch and Kyle
You could
Shanahan.
draft Jaden
And I want to
Daniels
thank you guys for
top
making
three.
sure
Now
that
you
Trevor
have to
Lawrence
start
was
him
the
because
kid
he's a
learning
number
from
one
lessons.
top three pick.
The entire San Francisco
But you
49ers
could also say,
organization,
hey,
the players,
I
the
want
San
him to
incredible
sit for
group
a
of
year.
men who goes
Let's
above
get
and below
Sam
the work books
Howell
every
another
day.
year under
Really,
his
everybody in
belt to
that
start,
organization, but
see where it
especially the
goes.
people I work really closely
Then
with, and that's
guess what?
our scouts, our personnel
You get
department, our R&D
if
department,
you got a
our
guy like Ben
coaches,
Johnson
lifelong
or you got a guy
friendships,
like Bob
just incredible
Slockley, and you say,
relationships
well,
with
you know what?
many
Hey,
working
I
closely
want
with
this
them.
guy to go and
All of
start. I
them
think he's
will
ready.
be
Then you put him
forever
in.
not
But if you
forgetting
draft
that.
him 1, 2, or
Last but
3,
not
you have
least,
to
the
start him
quarterback
automatically.
faithful, a great fan
But
base. It
like
seems like
Corey said last
a
night, I would
passionate
draft my
and
quarterback
loyal.
and trade
And
Sam
thank you
Howell
guys
out
for all
and
your
bring in a
support.
veteran
All
like
that
Jacoby Brissett.
support
You
has
could
been a
keep
journey that's
Joby,
gotten me
you
to
could
day to
keep
day.
Jacoby
And
Brissett
this is where I'm supposed to
and
be.
have him
And as a
mentor
fan
somebody
who
like
also
a
remains
Drake
a
May
fan,
or
I can
Jaden
tell you guys
Daniels or
outside of
Caleb
that
Williams,
interview,
whoever
this
we
is
decide to pick.
absolutely incredible.
You know what I'm
I can't
saying?
mention myself enough.
So
So
that's some of the
thanks,
things
Trevor.
that we understand.
And I'm going to tell you guys, I promise I
Now,
will work
further
tirelessly to
on,
build this franchise. It's
um,
one of the cornerstone
he
franchises in the
also dressed the
NFL.
roster.
The pillars of
Like
the
I said,
National Football
he
League, an
said
incredible area. The
there are
DMV,
some
our nation's
cornerstones
capital.
on
I could
on
not
this
be more
roster,
thrilled to be here.
but there
I
is a
could not be more
lot of
thrilled to
work
be here today in lead
to
you.
do to get
I
better.
know how much this
And that
franchise means to
means
our fans.
whatever
I'm
coach comes
extremely,
in,
extremely motivated to deliver
whatever
everybody what
he
they
fill
deserve.
his roster
We're going to
out,
build this team the right way.
is
We're going to
going
do it through a great
to
process and a great
evaluate this
vision.
team
You guys are going to see that on the
and
field with the
see
energy, the
where
passion,
we have to
the
get better
toughness,
at.
the physicality.
And
All
once
those
we
things
do
are going to
that,
resonate in
I
the
think that
DMV
whole
area.
all the corner pieces.
It's going
Now
to
I
be my
still think
franchise with this
Jonathan
franchise
Allen
for a
could get
long
traded in
time.
all season. I don't
There's
think
not really
Terry
been
as
the
much
resources
because
that
Terry
Trevor
has
has
produced
given
under the
has
circumstances that we had.
given us.
Now I think Terry,
Is all we
you
need.
get the right
My job
quarterback in. I
is
think
absolutely
Terry,
now.
Jahan,
We're going to
and if
surround
you bring
ourselves
Curtis Samuel
with
back, I think
the very
I
best
really
people
believe
to
Curtis
be
Samuel is
aligned
going
in
to come back.
everything we do
But I also think we
toward
going
that common goal.
now we don't get
That
Curtis
process
Samuel and
starts
we
right
go after
now.
some
We're
guy
going to
like T.
discuss and hire
Higgins
a new head
in
coach
free
pretty soon.
agency.
This is something we
To
built
me,
together
I
as soon as
would
I was hired. So
keep Curtis Samuel on a low
again, I want to
deal,
thank Josh.
another
I want to
2-year
thank
deal,
his
and I
partners
will
for
sign
this
T. Higgins
opportunity
in
of a
free
lifetime
agency.
to lead
Guess
this
what?
team
You would
and
have
this region,
Terry, Jahan,
our
all of
nation's
these guys.
capital, and to have
You get the
all the
right
incredible
quarterback. There
support
ain't no
from many of
way
the
in the
candidates
world
for
that
this
this offense
organization.
could not. And you get a
So
really good young
I'm
tight
honored
end
to
to
be here
come in
all
the
week, and I
game.
can't wait to get started doing
And
everything
add,
we can
if
to
you
restore
decide
this
to keep
proud
Gibson
franchise to where
and
it
B Rob
belongs.
as your running backs,
Thank you. With that, we're out of
then
here.
you have an arsenal and really get the offensive line right. There ain't no way that this roster cannot compete and score points. Now, when we first started out the season, we were scoring 20 something points. Then that dipped off a little bit. But like I said, you get the right quarterback in there, you'll see all of these guys' numbers
Appreciate
starting
that.
to
Maybe a little bit
rise up
dimmer.
for real. So,
Well, everything is to answer
and
your question.
like he said,
Everything
Adam
is
Peter
exactly
said,
what
there's a
Trevor
lot of
and I
work on this roster.
seek for
There's a lot to be
great
filled.
ownership group,
There's a
great
lot
fan
that's
base,
going to happen.
the ability to
There's going
start
to
a new
be
coach. All
growing
those things
pains also.
were so appealing
So if
to me that really,
Jonathan Allen don't want to
going
be here
through this
for a rebuild
process, it was very clear to
and
me
he don't want to
that
see it through,
right when I
then
met with
guess
Josh,
what?
this is where I wanted to
Bye
be.
bye. Trade him for a
Chuck
third
Howard,
round.
ESPN, for
You know what I'm
Josh.
saying?
For
Get
Josh
more
first,
pictures you want.
you
You
talk
know what I'm
about
saying?
him being here.
So
What things did you see in that jumped out
so
to you?
and
What
then
were
he
the things that got
also
him?
talked about
Can you
his head
talk a little
coaching
bit
search.
about
This goes back to the other
most
question I
importantly
blamed
you're
to y'all.
looking for in setting
We're
up
looking for the
the
best leader
organization?
for the team. We have
He has
set
to
a
win.
criteria
He's won
that
everywhere he's
we're
been.
aligned in the
First
vision.
in
It's not
Washington,
going to
then
be in a
in
box, but it's going to
Tampa,
be,
then in San
it's not going to be
Francisco,
offense, it's not going to be
and he's
defense.
learned from a
It's
lot of
going to
great
be a leader.
leaders.
So,
He's about
he
excellence.
did talk about that.
He's about attracting the
So
best people, and when
these
people
are
feel
some of the things
accountable,
that they
it's about
laid
building
out.
edges.
Him, Josh
It's
Harris, and
inclusive.
everything. And they asked
You
Josh
look at
Harris
people
why
from a
that
lot of
he
different
picked
backgrounds, a lot of different
um,
perspectives, and
Adam Peters.
so
And he
it's
simply put it like
from my
this:
point of view in terms of
his
how we
level of
do it.
success.
Both of us
And
work really
Josh Harris
hard.
laid it out
Both of us
from the
want to make things
Patriots,
from the ground
Broncos, and the
up, 1%
49ers.
at a time.
He said
But we
everywhere
want to
this
take
man went,
more of a long-term
there was a
perspective to
level
build
of
sustainable
success.
and elite winning.
And you have to be
And
excited about
so
that.
I
You
think
have to be
you
excited
know he
to win.
was
Now,
an idea that I
personally,
think might
for
help
me,
people.
I am excited.
And just
I
hearing
was
that
really
from
excited
Josh
this year,
and seeing that our visions were aligned
but
and all that's
I'm
going on that
excited
he
to
just
see what the
mentioned
front office
made it
does and
really,
how
really
they build this
just
team.
really exciting for me.
But I'm I'm going
I'm
to
taking over
not
with
get
the
over my
Athletics.
head
Welcome to
because I
DC.
know going into the
I
season
wonder what
we
you
got a
think of
lot
the
of
current
pieces to
roster.
put in place, but I'm going to be
I
excited
believe
about the
that
personnel that we
also
put
the current
together.
roster
And when the season starts, when we go through draft and the season starts, I'll be able to say, you know what, hey, okay, now week one, how we gonna play? Then I'm gonna analyze. I think this year I'm going to take a deep, more analyzation of each game and thoroughly break it down more so than I ever had did before, because I want to be able to dissect and see the growth of this team. And I think that for me is going to be very, very important to see the mature of these players and see the growth of these players and also understand the level of expectation that Josh Harris and Adam Peters are going to be looking for. So now, how they fill out the rest of the front office, I don't know. That's Adam Peters, but I think their main goal right now is to look for a head coach. And they do have some head coaches coming in. I will break that down in another video later today, about who visiting, who's supposed to visit, and who they already interviewed so far, so forth. So, with that being said, this is your boy LiveWire Sports Entertainment, well, LiveWire Sports Media. Continue to like, comment, subscribe to the channel. I will always bring you some great details on Washington Commanders football. And I'm on the road to 2K. Hit that notification bell, hit that subscribe button. Until then, hail to the Commanders. Y'all should be happy right now. We have
it's a great opportunity.
legitimate, we have
Selected as a
leaders
head coach, and we're going to do that
on this team,
whole
on this front
process
office
collaboratively.
and ownership.
It's been a
Leaders,
great process.
not
That's what
pretenders.
we do.
We have leaders.
But like you said,
So with that being
it's far
said,
from making the
take
decision
care.
on that.
Until the next
I'm
time,
really looking forward to that
LiveWire out.
process.